here on Perspectives. Our guest is a 45-year veteran of the advertising industry and is credited with revolutionizing the image of African Americans in television, as well as changing the face of American advertising. In 2007, he founded the Resolution Project, a not-for-profit organization that promotes interracial dialogue and community-based new media. Stop the Brainwashed campaigns. He is also an author, and tonight he's here to talk about his new book. It's called Brainwashed, Challenging the Myth of Black Inferiority, and you'll see it in just a few seconds. And Tom Burrell, thank you, and welcome to the show.
My pleasure. My pleasure
Glad
being
to
here.
have you.
Yeah, glad to be here.
I was sharing honestly. I said I picked the book up, and usually when you do this thing, you flip through and you get your notes and you do this. But I actually started and really couldn't put it down because I really felt like you're really hitting the nail on the head with a lot of things. What was your focus in coming up with Brainwashed?
My focus was coming up with Brainwashed was after realizing that America has been sold a bill of goods through false advertising, the myth of black inferiority. I started thinking about it and started thinking about how to formulate it and how to compartmentalize it. And that's how I came up with the 10 chapters that really amount to 10 essential questions about 10 essential pathologies that we keep carrying around with us as a result of being brainwashed. And we were brainwashed to basically justify slavery within a democracy. So it's been going on for all these years. Mm-hmm. It's 1619 when we got here, and it was spiked when we started this country because the founding fathers had a choice, but they decided that they could not have a democracy without slavery, mm-hmm. which is a right. contradictory term. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's a contradiction, a total contradiction. So the only way that they could come up with justifying it was to come up with this brilliant idea. Let's just say that these people are not human, these slaves, these people who don't look like us. Mm-hmm. And that was the beginning of the brainwashing. And that was the beginning of what was more devastating than the slavery itself. Because after slavery was abolished, we still were carrying the vestiges of being brainwashed.
And you make that correlation. You make the correlation of slavery back in the day, and then you talk about pretty much what we consider slavery today in terms of how we have been enslaved. And, Brainwash calls in what we can say the marketing of the myth of black inferiority to justify slavery within a democracy, one of the greatest propaganda campaigns of all time. And,
right.
and I know you say that. Talk to us about right now, because you spend a lot of time in the public relations field, and
right.
You'll sell a person, and you're used to selling a person. But the truth be told, when we're looking at us as a people, it seems as though we've sold out.
Well, we were sold a bill of goods. We were brainwashed. We were basically convinced, being separated from our culture, being separated from our families, separated from anything that we were familiar with, brought here in the whole of a ship, packed like sardines, brought out, chained, and basically sold like cattle, disoriented in a strange land. We were broken down. We were prime fodder for brainwashing. Mm-hmm. And so the brainwashing is that we are going to convince you that people who look different from you are superior to you, and you are inferior. And you beat it into people who are broken down, and it takes hold. And when it takes hold, it has an intergenerational effect. It gets passed down just like a family recipe, from generation to generation. At some point, in any good case of brainwashing, the brainwashed becomes a part of the brainwashing team. Mm-hmm. The abused become a part of the abusers. And that's essentially what has happened. We have taken over our own victimization as a result of this untreated brainwashing that has taken place, and we talk about that in each of the chapters.
And I want to talk a little bit about a couple of the chapters that you deal with. You talked about in one of your chapters relationship wrecks and why we can't have strong families. And when you talk about strong families, in particular black families, why can't we have strong families? And you talk about you know, the African American male and the role that we've played and how we've played into the inferiority complex and sometimes being too superior, and I want to talk about that.
Yeah.
Because we in many ways we want to portray, some of us, studs, hardcore, this, that, but really behind the shell we have an inferiority complex.
Well, that's what it is. You know, you talk about relationship wrecks. There's no doubt about the fact that we have issues with forming strong families. Many of us have managed to overcome it, but there's still no doubt that most of us do have that problem. But the thing is, what we have to do is we have to go back and look at just a few generations ago. It was illegal for a man to be a father. A black man could not be a father. We had no control over anything, including ourselves. We had no control over our families. You could think you had a family, go to bed one night, wake up the next morning, found out that your children were sold away, that your wife, the person you thought was your wife, was sold away. So that builds up a callous, you know, it builds of the spirit and the psyche. So we have to not make excuses, but we have to understand the connection between where we are now and how we got there. That's what we deal with in each chapter. Relationship wrecks, studs and sluts, uglified, homicide, why do we kill each other, slow suicide, why do we neglect our mind, body, and spirit? I mean, all the way through.
Go ahead. I'll let you finish off on that.
All the way through, we have to basically connect the dots between where we are, how we got there, and most importantly, what to do about it.
The name of the book is called Brainwashed, and it's challenging the myth of black inferiority. Tom Burrell, our guest in studio, the author of it.